So this is about the area where philosophy meets optical illusions. And my plan here is to draw an optical illusion while explaining to you, and at the point you realise that the picture is an optical illusion, if you note the time, then you can always comment it should you wish to. So Plato was a philosopher way before the time of Christ, and so he's measured in BC, and what he did was he produced various ideas about the nature of reality, and so one of the things that he's well known for is his philosophy of forms. So I suppose the ancient Greeks had this idea that philosophy was related to things and whether things existed. So they reckoned that everything had a true form. So if you had an apple, you had its physical attributes. So the apple would have the things that you would associate with an apple: its colour, green or red, its taste, its constituents, the pips, the flesh, the peel. In fact, in a general sort of sense, the forms were not really something that a non-philosopher would have to think about. I mean, effectively, you only think in this sort of way if you're engaged in philosophy. But he also had this idea that things that were not so tangible had form. So there would be a form for things like rightness, or a form for something like redness. And the forms themselves, they lived in a special reality. So I think that the ancient Greeks saw this as something like heaven. Plato refers to it as a space beyond heaven, or a realm beyond heaven. This is the realm where forms lived, so that if you were looking for something like democracy, which the Greeks were very keen on, then it would in fact have a form, and this form would live in this space, which I think we can only really refer to as a heaven for things. The ancient Greeks, and Plato in particular, were very interested in the nature of reality, and very interested in trying to work out whether something like the redness or the greenness of the apple, the actual redness bit, actually existed. So that's something to consider, something that I suppose still bothers philosophers today. Perhaps it does, I don't really know. quite what they get up to today, but the nature of the game is that what is real and what isn't real, or whether we're all in a bottle somewhere in some laboratory, is something that we can't really disprove. So it's a factor, and to me it's possibly an important factor. I think we'll take that across there a bit. That looks more convincing. It's a bit difficult drawing optical illusions. I don't really quite see what we can do here to make them happen in perhaps the way we'd like them to, but we'll see what we can do. Make this a bit wider, I think. So that was one of Plato's philosophies, or one of the things that he aspired to. Now, another thing that he aspired to was the business of Plato's cave, which is pretty famous. So he had this story that the people were in a cave and they were chained up so that they faced away from the cave entrance, and all they could see was the shadows that were formed by the fire beyond the cave entrance on the wall of the cave. And I think if you think about the situation that they were in, it was probably a bit like when you come out of the cinema and so suddenly there you are, totally stunned by having come out the cinema, and these people were in this situation, and then one chap managed to escape, and he realised that reality itself wasn't the shadows on the wall, but reality was what caused the shadows. And he came back to the cave and he said to the other prisoners in the cave, well, you're deceived. Reality is something completely and utterly different, and that all you're seeing is something very, very marginal, that isn't really reality at all. And the prisoners in the cave, the ones who'd been his fellow prisoners, just wouldn't believe him. So he equates Plato, that is, human reality to this situation where we in fact are not seeing what's really there. And of course, if you think about modern science, that makes some degree of sense, because we're not, as it were, seeing what's really there. What's really there is a lot of particles, molecules, atoms, whatever you like to call them, and we can't perceive them in, well, it's a bit high, isn't it? It's very difficult to draw and talk at the same time. That's my object in doing this, is to learn how to do such a thing. Anyway, I don't know what's happened there. What shall we have over here? We've got this one. So if we have this one, we could have something like that here. Oh yes, this optical illusion is going bonkers. It's definitely not the optical illusion I had in my head, but something you would associate with Plato's cave. Anyway, coming back to Plato and his, probably need some more arms here. So another one from Plato that I really like is his creation theory. So I suppose God or whatever, Zeus or someone, don't quote me on this, will you, created humanity, and then he created humanity rather like these people here, with 4 arms and with 4 arms and 4 legs and 2 heads, although mine's come out with 3 heads, but that's what you get. And so there were these beings that were proto-humans, and they were, I hope you're not going to criticise my drawing, it's very difficult to talk and draw. They were joined together in this way. Well, Zeus or some bloke like that decided that they were getting more powerful than the gods, so he decided to split them up. And ever since, every human being has been trying to find their other half, which accounts for romantic love, although platonic love doesn't actually mean this, but that's Plato's theory. Anyway, we'll say this drawing was just not very good and have another go another day. And so I'll now talk about Plato's books. So I work in Michael's Bookshop, which is a second-hand bookshop in Ramsgate, and we would expect to have in stock a variety of Plato's books. So I'll wave them in front of the camera just to give you an idea of the sort of thing that you get in an ordinary second-hand bookshop, and the sort of, I'll wave a few prices to give you an idea, but not too many, and there's going to be rather a lot of them, I expect, because we've probably got quite a lot of books in stock. But this is giving you an idea. Note, this is an early Penguin Classic. The Penguin Classics later became black spine things, but this is the sort of Penguin first edition type classic, which I rather like. They have a great advantage that most of them are sewn together so they don't fall apart. The modern Penguin Classics, of course, look like this, which to my mind are a bit more boring in some ways, but in other ways the covers are very attractive. Anyway, with philosophy and the bookshop here in Ramsgate, and I would guess most bookshops, it's a good subject, and the majority of what we would buy would be the Penguin Classics, so the newer Penguin Classics in as new condition, we're going to be selling them for £3, buying them for £1, or paying people £1.50 in exchange against another book or books. So that if you have philosophy and you want to sell it to us, if we haven't got lots of copies in the store, then we will buy it, and we'll also be looking for more interesting and more academic versions of Plato. This is a good example. So this is what's called a Lerb classic, and there we sell them for around £15-ish. So we'd be paying a fiver for these, or offering you £7.50 in exchange. And if you look carefully, you'll see that on one side is the Greek that it was originally written in, and on the other side is the English translation. So you can pretty much, with a Greek dictionary, sort out what translations did and didn't do to mess things up. And really, I would say that the Penguin translations are very trustworthy. However, some of the older books were translated by Victorian clergymen trying to get a bit of pen money, and they weren't very good Greek scholars. They learnt biblical Greek, which is different to classical Greek, and I would be very careful of those. So just to wrap this thing up, so Michael's Bookshop is a general second-hand bookshop. We don't post books out. We don't list books on the internet. We don't sell books online. We're really only interested in real people. Second-hand bookshops like this don't really make a profit, so we're fairly relaxed about that side of things, but it is important to understand that we do this for our pleasure, and to my mind, listing books on a computer and packing up parcels is not pleasure. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. Sorry about the drawing, it's a bit odd, isn't it? Did you notice when it became an optical illusion? Which bits became an optical illusion? But I did actually a much better one beforehand. Here it is. I mean, I thought it was a much better optical illusion. But when I came to draw and talk at the same time, I was like the well-known American president who it was said couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. But I will practice. So goodbye.